What up, gamers? Sometimes you're gamers, sometimes you're goobers. Today, you guys are gamers. But let's get into this. We're going to be talking about the best items to build on 13.23, the launch patch of set 10. And, everybody has access to stats. I'm just going to be going through stats, but I'm going to help you interpret the stats as someone who is currently in the top 100 ranks on North America. Let's just go through these items and let's talk about some outliers and some items you should be building and not building, and what are some of the best slams. So let's just talk about the outliers at the bottom that are not very good slams. And let's just talk about that first. Titan's Resolve in BT. On PBE, this was a very good slam combination because you could play for, you could play open for like, hey, maybe I'll play Edgewords this game. Maybe I'll play Akali. Maybe I'll play Viego. Now, Akali is very strong. That's it. So if you build these items, your direction is telling you you need to play Akali. But the problem is, Akali can use like any items. Like she can use the most garbage items and still pop off if comboed with a Karthus or comboed with an Ahri. She just needs a duo carry and she can use literal garbage and be great. And so if you build these items, it tells you have to play that because Edgewords are so hard to play. You have to be so high roll. You have to hit stuff so early. Like Edgewords are so tough. Zed is very good with these items as well, but Zed is just like not a comp you really play on purpose. It's a comp you play because you're kind of far ahead and you're rolling for like a Akali or something like that. And you hit a Zed chosen. Okay, cool. I'll take my free top 4. If you're really far ahead, you take that and then you try to maybe convert that into like a level 9 or level 10 comp and win the game like that. So just frontline carries are just not very good except for Akali, but she's more of an assassin anyways. So she'd be better off. Like honestly, she'd just be better off putting like Hodge plus like raw damage or something like that. QSS, Sterix even, those are just gonna be better for you. So I just wanted to go ahead and mention the outliers that are bad. And let's talk about Spear of Sojin down here because you're gonna be seeing that it's so low on the list. Let me help you interpret this. This is not a bad item. This is a great slam that helps you be super flexible, very strong item as well. I'm not sure why it's reflecting poorly in the data. Maybe because the play rate is so high. That play rate is pretty high right here. And along with Jeweled Gauntlet, do not be afraid to build these items. Playing AP Flex is a very good way to play the game. Although Jeweled Gauntlet can be a little bit tough sometimes because there's a lot of units who naturally have crit in their build, like Karthus and Lux and that sort of thing, and Vex. But it's still fine on those units. Don't be afraid to build this item if it's going to give you a lot of tempo. So even though this is not performing well, do not be afraid. Do not despair. You can build the combination of Spear of Sojin and Jeweled Gauntlet. But what I think is the better Spear of Sojin slam combination you can do for the early game is actually Spear of Sojin comboed with Nashor's Tooth. Very, very, very good combination because the way that it works, your Spear of Sojin gets you to cast really fast, and then your Nashor's Tooth procs, and then you start auto attacking really fast. And guess what? Your auto attacks generate you a bunch of mana because you built the Spear of Sojin. So that combination is very good. And it's just another reason why it's performing super well in the data is because if you get the angle to play Annie reroll, it is one of Annie's best items. So if you end up building like Nashor's blue buff or just Nashor's full damage, you play 4 emo or 6 emo. That is very good. She has an attack speed mechanic built into her and she just starts ramping really, really, really fast. And then it's like one of Zig's best items. Twisted Fate is probably the most consistent 4-cost AP carry. I mean, him and Ahri are great. Playing AP is very good right now. So like that item combination is so good. I think I love the item combination of Spear of Sojin, Nashor's, and Gunblade. I really, really, really like that combo, especially on TF. It feels very, very, very good. As you can see right here on TF, and Lux are very good users of those items because Lux, she's casting so often, and then TF, because whenever he's shooting on all of his cards, each instance of damage is healing him and a teammate, which is very, 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 very good. Other than this, tank items, like do not be afraid to build these tank items. There's some better tank items, like I think Bramble and Steadfast Heart are some of the better tank items. So if you're looking for a tank item to go for, I think by default Chain is very good because also Sunfire is good, Protector's Vow is good, Crown Guard is good, but also Adaptive Film is great. And that sort of thing as well. Let's talk about Adaptive Film, since I just said the word. Adaptive Film is great because it's also a super, super, super flex item. It's great on frontline, great on backline. I feel very comfortable building an Adaptive Film. To me, it feels like budget Sojin for my backline a lot of the times. But for units, some units it's very good on. Obviously Bard, because it's his super fan item. That's why it's going to be performing really well here. And that's why it's performing super well in the stats as well. Just like, let's just be aware of that. That reason why Adaptive Helm is so strong in the stats is because Bard's comp is the best performing comp in the game, and it is by default his Superfan item, and you play Superfan Frontline. But I really like this item. It's super flexible. It's probably Karthus' best mana generation item. It's probably a little bit better than Sojin. And then also you could just slam it on Frontlines. Also, another thing to account for in these stats is the Adaptive Helm augment. Whenever you offer the augment that gives you an Adaptive Helm, it's extremely strong on tanks because a lot of tanks scale with AP, like a Lowy, like Blitz, like a Mumu. And so putting this on them when you have that effect where you get both effects, it's very, 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 very strong. Cool. Edge of Night here. Edge of Night, you'll see, is performing quite well. That does not mean just slam Edge of Night. It's because if you're building Edge of Night, it's probably because you're in a spot where you're playing one of these carries already. So like you don't just like you don't just build Edge of Night at the beginning of the game unless you have like Evelyn Crowd Diver maybe, and you have like clear Crowd Diver direction, and like you use that, get really good tempo. Other than that, you usually build this item because you hit a Zed, because you hit a Kiana, because you hit a Kali, and a Kali's just great, right? Because you hit a Viego Chosen, you're right. You're building it after the fact, and that's why it performs really well. You see the play rate is quite low. Red buff, God knows why they buffed red buff. No one knows. No one knows. Healing Reduction is just so good. So let's talk about the outliers, red buff and Morello Namacon. Healing Reduction is so amazing. It's great against Akali. You know, as soon as you get that Healing Reduction on Akali, it really takes her down. She has a tough time playing the game. You know, the 1Z player, you're going to mess them up. There's a lot of healing just built in innately in comps with like Bard, with Sona, with a lot of people like building Gunblade. If there's a Seraphine reroll player, a lot of people build Gunblade on like Senna reroll. A lot of people build Gunblade on TF. A lot of people build Gunblade on Ziggs. You know, the Disco heals people. There's a lot of healing augments. So healing reduction is very good, and there's a lot of good appliers of this. So I just did a guide on how to play Jazz. If you have Bard chosen, Red Buff and Morello are amazing on him because he essentially dutes the entire team once he's at like 5 or so dutes, 5 or so stacks, he'll hit the whole team. Sona hits the whole team. Ziggs basically hits the whole team with Morello. It's honestly fine on Karthus, and even like I don't mind building red buff and playing and when I play Karthus because it just helps him generate mana really fast. It's like a budget Sojin, but also does healing reduction. And there's just so many good appliers of this. Ezreal's great at applying this. Lucian's great at applying this. Senna Chosen is great at applying this stuff. It's great on a Mumu. It's great on Echo, not red buff, but Morello. It's great on those guys, and you'll be good to go. What else is kind of sticking out here? Sterak's just pretty solid item. It also performs really well because it's great on Urgot, and Urgot reroll is very strong right now. Last Whisper is a great item. If you're playing AD right now, you have to build Last Whisper. You cannot play the game, so build this item if you plan on playing AD. This is the most important item in any AD comp, Last Whisper. You can put an Even Shroud, but just Last Whisper is what I would say is going to be best. Where is the Even Shroud? It is right here. Okay, yeah. Anytime you're playing AD, you have to have armor reduction, or you just cannot play the game. There's a lot of Amumus running around, and then a lot of people just build Bramble and Steadfast Hearts and that sort of thing. We see if there's any other outliers here before we kind of wind this down. Obviously, if you're playing, same thing applies. If you're playing an AP comp, you need a Static Shiv or an Ionic Spark. You know, just put Ionic Spark on your tankiest unit usually. Or your second tankiest unit if you can itemize 2 different tanks, but a lot of times that's pretty tough to do. Static Shiv just goes on one of your backliners, usually not your main carry. Like if you're going to be playing TF and then you're like have a Lulu in your comp for like Hyper Pop and Spellweaver, you know, it goes there. Or if you're playing like a Spellweaver comp, it goes on Seraphine instead of Ahri. So just keep that in mind usually. I do not like Rabadons very much. Just don't think it does enough for you. I'd rather build a Jewel Gauntlet, even though it doesn't perform as well in the stats. But remember, Jewel Gauntlet's play rate is insane, so that kind of messes with the stats a little bit. And so I don't really like Rabadons. I'd rather build, honestly, anything else most of the time. Blue buff is a very good item on Ahri, Annie. It's pretty good on Jhin this patch ever since they buffed his mana. Very good on Ziggs. You'll see this perform pretty well because usually you build it once you have one of these really good comps going. It's kind of hard to slam in the early game unless you have like an Annie chosen. So just think about that. But anyways, guys, I hope this was helpful. I was just trying to interpret some of this data. Let me know if it was helpful. Press like and comment on the video and press subscribe. If you want my videos to get recommended to you more often, if you want to stay up to date on the meta, I do these videos pretty much every day. And also just helps my videos get out to more people. And I would love for my videos to get out to more people. We're trying to grow the channel, if you haven't noticed. You know, that's the goal of every YouTuber. Anyways, appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.